What's up, guys? It's Josh back with SobrietyWoD again. I'm gonna change it up a little bit today, filming in the gym because just a little change of scenery and I can move around a little bit more here. And also, now that I kind of know how the videos are going to be used for the class, we want to change it up a little bit and kind of have some segments with some pauses where you guys can kind of discuss some of the ideas. So to jump right into it, today's about repetition, and I'm gonna get to a part where I'm gonna ask a question and kind of throw it out there, and then I'll pause the video. You guys can pause your video and have a little discussion about it. So talking about the power of repetition, and in CrossFit, a lot of what we learn is just through repetition. So yesterday, we actually did a workout that had a bunch of reps of a movement in it, and we do a lot of coaching ahead of time, but at some point, we kind of just have to turn you loose to practice. And so what happens when you practice, when you do a lot of reps, you start to figure out what things work better, what things don't work as well. And repetition itself sort of has this way of clarifying or making a movement or a process better. Just by doing it over and over, we start to learn things from it. So repetition itself can be informative and can help us to be more efficient and to better what we're trying to do in our lives. And I always think about this stuff in relation to our life and recovery, right? A lot of the program is repetitive. A lot of what we do is just the same things over and over. There's a lot of the idea of like 90 meetings in 90 days, or meditate every day, or read these prayers, or do this exercise or whatever every day, because repetition leads to learning. Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit, or a habit, not an act." And all that means is it's what you do over and over is what makes you who you are, right? So when we're using over and over, that's what made us an addict, right? In a way, kind of, we are what we do. And it was a big realization whenever I understood that, whenever I actually like stepped back and look at myself, and I was like, if I'm what I do, then I'm a drunk. Like, I had to be honest, because in my mind, like who I was and what I was capable of and all that stuff was just this whole like alter ego than what other people saw when they looked at me. And that's some of the stuff we're gonna get into next week. So looking at repetition, one of the things I tell people is take whatever the thing is, multiply it by 1,000. If you did it 1,000 times, what would it turn into? You know, what would it look like? What would happen? Because that's what repetition does. So as addicts, I think we know all about repetition and the power of it. Now, the thought for today is, repetition can be incredibly productive. It can be an incredibly productive force. Think about if you got up and you journaled every day. At the end of 365 days, you would have a wealth of written information versus you trying to sit down and just do all that in a day, right? It's the little bit at a time, and we know this principle as one day at a time, right? CrossFit works the same way, and whole, it's that little workout every day, that little 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, push it, recover, push it, recover, and we see ourselves over time get better and better. So, if you multiply what you're doing by 1,000, what would the consequences of it be? And I deal with a lot of people having trouble with maybe eating habits or not coming to the gym or something. You know, it's like if you ate that 1,000 times, what would it do? You know, that's a good way to think about it. It's a good way to make a decision. So with the idea in mind of repetition and the consequences of repetition, what I want to start with is just a little discussion on maybe something in your life that you do repeatedly, identifying something in your life right now that you do repeatedly, that if it's continued, it will likely lead to unfavorable consequences. So I can give you an idea of mine. I still use tobacco. I dip. I quit a couple months ago for a month, and then I started again, but it's one of those things that's always in the back of my mind. It's like, at some point, man, I'm gonna have to deal with this, because if I continue, it's gonna lead to something bad. So that's mine, throw it out there. You guys maybe think about some of yours. Y'all can discuss them, throw them out there. But I want them to be small. I don't want it to be some huge thing. But just take a minute, talk about, maybe you probably already know it, but identify that area that if you continue to do it repeatedly, it's going to have some bad consequences.